First of all, appreciate everybody coming out to cover Penn State football and to support us. Overall, obviously, we're excited. We still got a little bit more work to do, but overall, I really like how today went. Not a whole lot of surprises for us. We kind of released the commitments throughout the day, but most of the guys' letter of intents were in by 9 o'clock, somewhere around there this morning. So that was really good. Excited about that. I just like the progress that we're making, really kind of in all areas. We just kind of keep chipping away at it and keep working. The development of our current players, what we're doing academically, what we're doing on the football field, in terms of being successful on the football field. 2 undefeated seasons at home, back-to-back, hasn't happened in 31 years. What we're doing from a facility perspective, what we're doing from a staff perspective, and then recruiting. So I keep seeing us make progress. Really more every day. It's not just every single year; it's every day. I see us, making decisions, across campus. I see the alignment that we need. I've talked about this a lot since I arrived about the alignment for you to be as successful as you want to be and as successful as we need to be. That takes the students. That takes our players, that takes the coaches, that takes the administration, our athletic director, Sandy Barber, that takes our president, Eric Barron, that takes the board, that takes the letterman, that takes his community, all really working together. And every day I see us getting closer to that. So it's an exciting time. I look at attendance this year. I think we had the largest jump in attendance in the country this year. So there's just a lot of really positive things going on. Excited about the fact, obviously, the class overall, but I'm also excited we got 6 guys that should be here in a couple weeks. They'll be here at mid-semester. Trent Gordon, Isaiah Humphreys, Zach Kuntz, Jesse Lakita, Micah Parsons, and Nick Tarburton will all be here within a couple weeks. I think, as you guys have seen, we have played freshmen. And that whether that's guys that graduated early and came in December or come in the summer, they're going to have an opportunity to compete. I do think the chances and the likelihood increase, obviously, the longer that they're here and in the system. So that'll be interesting. We got 3 Under Armour All-Americans in Mustafa, Shorter, and Slade, 2 Army All-Americans in Nana and Parsons, a Gatorade Player of the Year in Slade. This is a stat that I think is really something I'm proud of. We have 44 4- or 5-star recruits in the last 4 classes. The previous 4 classes, there was a total of 16. So I think we're really making some good progress there. Really proud that we've signed the #1 player in the state of Pennsylvania for 3 straight years. I want to thank Miles Sanders for that. Miles Sanders is the guy that jumped on board with us. At a time that we were really trying to kind of get this thing rolling, and he got it going. And then the following year it was Lamont Wade, and now this year it's Micah Parsons. From different parts of the state. That hasn't happened here since 2004. So excited about that. Signed 2 of the top 10 recruits in the country for the first time since 2000. 2 of the top 15 recruits. Only had 5 top 15 recruits, from 2000 to 2017. So in 17 years, we only signed 5 top 15 recruits, and we have 2 in this class. So really excited about that. So there's just been a lot of positive things going on. 6 of the 15 highest rated recruits, since most of these recruiting services have been doing this. 6 of the 15 highest rated recruits in Penn State history, coming since we've been here, in Parsons, Shorter, Sanders, Slade, Mennett, Wade. So that's exciting. Finished 3rd in the country in one service, 4th in the country in another service, and I also understand that we're not done. There's still going to be some more movement today and in the second signing period as well. And then 2nd in the Big Ten. So we're making progress. We're still not where we want to be, but we are making progress in those types of areas. And I'm really proud of all the hard work that went in from the coaches and the support staff off the field, and really our current players. I think our current players are a big part of that. How they are when they host these guys, how they are when the parents come on campus and we do panels, and those guys, we leave the room and the parents can ask our players any question they want. And then probably one other thing, our 4-year average over the last 4 years has been a class that's ranked 13th in the country. And the 4-year average before we got here was 34. So again, I see us making progress. At the end of the day, these rankings don't matter a whole lot once they show up on campus. I love that first practice or that first tire pull when the 5-star or the 4-star gets beat and the vet stands over them and tells them that no one cares about your 5-star or your 4-star or whatever it is. We see guys go to the NFL, that are 2-star guys and all that. So I get it. But I do think there is value in it in terms of guys that we've evaluated as really good players. A lot of other people have as well, whether that's other colleges as from an offers perspective, or whether that's recruiting services or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is getting guys that are great fits here, great fits culturally, academically, athletically, socially, the whole package. And one of the things that's interesting is you guys don't necessarily get to know this the way we do, but this is one of the highest classes. I think it's the highest class that we've signed here in terms of GPA and SAT as well. So when you're able to combine guys that are highly rated football players as well as guys that are highly rated students, that's really what it's all about for us. So I want to thank our staff. I want to thank our staff for all the hard work that they put in developing these relationships. And that's coaches as well as our recruiting staff, as well as our administrative staff. I want to thank our players. And then I also want to just thank the families and high school prospects out there that believed in us and want to come and help us continue to build. So open it up to questions.
Okay, there's questions here in the room. Raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you.
Hey, James. Are there any particular positions or aspects, qualities of the team that you wanted to address in this class, and how successful do you feel you were in doing that?
Yeah, I think overall, I think we did a pretty good job of that. As you guys know, from past experiences, in my coaching profession, I'm always going to put an emphasis up front on the O-line and D-line. I think we've made progress there. We still have a major need at defensive end. Still have a major need at defensive end. Still have a need at offensive tackle. So there's still a need there. But overall, I think we've helped ourselves in those areas up front on both sides of the ball. But yeah, I think if you look at this class, we were able to sign a kicker, we were able to sign wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs. We try to avoid years where we don't sign a guy at a position. Right now, we don't have a defensive end committed to us. We're going to play Micah Parsons at Mike linebacker this spring, see how that goes. We know he can move back to defensive end, but we're going to have him here for spring ball and see if he can do that. So right now, we don't have a defensive end committed in the class. But we try to avoid that. We try to make sure that every year we sign a guy at a position. Because what happens is if you don't do that, then quickly you're going to have a hole. You're going to have a hole at a position. But yeah, I think overall we did a pretty good job.
Hey, Coach. The group of pass targets you brought in, the 2 tight ends, the 3 receivers you signed today. Can you assess that group overall and how they may impact the offense moving forward, that level of talent?
Yeah, I think if you look at it, kind of the tight ends at first. Kuntz, I think, is very similar in a lot of ways to Kasicki. High school wide receiver, is probably a little bit further along as a tight end than what Mike was. But both big-bodied guys that can really run. Kuntz at 6'7", 215 pounds or so came to camp and ran, in the 4.6s for us, which is really impressive. I think we're going to have time, to grow him. Him graduating early is really going to help. And, if he gets on the field, great, but he doesn't have to get on the field as a freshman like Mike did. So I think there'll be value in that as well. Let him kind of marinate in the weight room a little bit and take some time. But he is a long, athletic kid who can run. And then obviously with Freiermuth, you kind of got the complete opposite. You talk about a 6'5", 215-pound road grader, tough guy with really soft hands. Guy came to camp. We offered in camp as a junior, did a great job for us. But what was probably more impressive is how much he improved in his testing numbers from his junior year to his senior year. Really kind of the same weight as he was as a junior or senior, but it was different weight. His body had changed, and we're really excited about him. Think he's got a very bright future. So I think that's a really good 1-2 punch there. And then at wide receiver, I think Justin Shorter is as good of a high school wide receiver I've ever seen. On film and in person. You're talking about another guy who's 6'4", 220 pounds, very mature. For as highly recruited as he was, there was no drama and no issues whatsoever. He committed very early on, never wavered at all. His parents were awesome. High school coach was awesome. I mean, kind of all of them. Daniel George is another really, really mature guy. Great student, great high school program. Craig Jeffries, his high school coach, is a real good friend of mine. Done a great job. Mom's a doctor. Just another really mature guy. He's a track guy, can really run. When you see him, he physically is mature. He's mentally mature. So I think he's got a chance to come in and do some really good things for us as well. Jahan Dotson's a guy that kind of had a different story, recruiting, in-state kid that we were trying to connect with, and kind of ups and downs and twists and turns in this recruiting process with him. But at the end of the day, things worked out the way they were supposed to work out. We were able to keep another in-state local player home, which I think is a win-win for everybody. Him having an opportunity to get a world-class education, to play big-time football, to do it in front of everybody he loves. I think in some ways, I think Saquon Barkley had a big part in that. For a kid in that region, they're both from basically 5 minutes from each other, and for him to see Saquon Barkley come here and thrive in so many areas, it just makes sense. It makes sense for local kids to come here. It's good for Penn State. It's good for the kids and their families. It's good for their high school programs. It's good for the community. It really is. You leave the state and you go far away, you're not going to get the same type of coverage. You're not going to get the same type of support. I mean, our local players, I think if you went back and kind of traced how many times Saquon Barkley's been in the newspaper or on the news or, been covered in that community, it's invaluable. It's invaluable. So, I think, we're fortunate. I don't think we're done there. I think we'll have a little bit more movement there as well. But I'm pleased with the progress we've made.
James, you said a little bit earlier you weren't sure if you were done or you weren't sure if you were done right now. Is there more action to come in this signing period, or were you referring to maybe just a general sense around college football in regards to the rankings?
No, I think with us, I think we'll have some more action in the next day or so, and then I think we can have some more action. Guys that we're still involved with for the second signing day that we knew they were going to wait till the second signing day. So, there's still some moving parts out there, but I worry a little bit about this second signing period because there's a few guys and a bunch of schools that want those few guys, and in the past, those schools were trying to still chase 20 guys, and now you're going to have 20 schools chasing one guy. And it's going to get interesting. So I'm going to make sure that I travel in numbers, because if a fight breaks out in the front lawn of a recruit, I want to make sure that Sean Spencer and Tyler Bowen, who's 6'7", is there with me. But but seriously, I think it's going to be interesting. I think these next couple of weeks in this last signing day is going to get really aggressive, and I have a little bit of a concern about that, obviously. For the recruits, they're under enough pressure and their families to make what is probably the biggest decision they've made at this point in their life. So that's where the guys that I think have made their decisions and made their decisions early, even before this signing day. It's funny because we go on home visits and official visits for guys that have been committed to us for 6 months or 9 months, and it's fun. They're happy. It's a celebration. There's no stress involved at all. And then you got guys that take a different path, which is fine, but it becomes stressful. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. We're all going through it for the first time, but yeah, we'll still have a little bit of action here at Penn State.
Hey James, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. We heard from Micah Parsons earlier today from his side of the fence how his recruiting process went. How was it from your vantage point, and what can a guy like that mean to a program, short term and long term?
You're going to have to wait until the book comes out. I've been coaching 23 years, and the book will probably be what am I looking for? Chapters. 5 chapters on my career, and then 15 chapters on the ups and downs and twists and turns and the journey of Micah Parsons and the commitments and the second guessing and all the people that felt like they had an opinion in this and what he should do or shouldn't do. And so, fortunately for us, at the end of the day, we had built a very strong relationship with Mom. We built a very strong relationship with Dad by the end of the process, the high school coach, and then a bunch of people in that community. I think it helped that he's got a high school teammate, in our program now that's doing really well. So I think there's a lot of factors, and I think the fact that we've been involved with him since he was in 9th grade. I think it'll be an interesting. That'll be in my memoirs when I'm retired and hopefully sitting on a beach somewhere, writing my memoirs or writing this book or reciting this to someone else to write the book. He'll have a number of pages in it. But I do think obviously being able to keep the best players home is really important. I think Miles got this thing started. Very appreciative of Miles and his mom for kind of getting it going. Now it's Miles made it cool to stay home and play at Penn State. It's kind of a sexy thing to do now. We got Miles, and then got Lamont, and now got Micah. And it's going to take a lot of hard work to kind of keep this thing going. But as you guys know in my initial press conference, how important we feel like this is, not only in this state but also in this region.
Hey Coach.
How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Earlier today, Micah Parsons said that your loyalty to Penn State was a big reason for his decision. How does it feel to know that your good reputation is having such a large impact on these players?
Well, I think with these players and their parents, they're more savvy than ever. The amount of information that's out there, and I think this process kind of scared some kids when they saw schools that they were really interested in, coaches leaving that they didn't expect to leave. And I'm talking head coaches. We were very open, and I think it really helped us. We were very open and honest about that we're going to have assistant coaches leave. I was very upfront, that we were going to have assistant coaches leave to go be coordinators, and we have coordinators leave to go be head coaches, and understand that. So when it happened, we called kids and we called their families, we called their high school coaches and talked about it, but it didn't have a huge effect because we were so upfront on the front end about it. And then I think, with the head coaches, I think it scared some kids nationally. So, when they see me and they see my staff and they see the administration be supportive of us, and, the fact that, I'm from here, the fact that, I got a great job at a great place, and we still got a lot of work to do in a lot of different areas. I think they understand that. I think they understand that, that consistency at the head coaching position is so important. I would make the argument that consistency in assistant coaches is very important as well, but that's never going to be as stable as the head coach. So I thank President Barron, I thank Sandy Barber, I thank the board for supporting, because I do think that is a huge part in all of this. The first thing you hear all the time is that recruits should make the decision based on the school and not the coach. That is not happening. That is not happening. I think it's probably 50-50 between the coach and the school, and I would say the coaches and the school. And I'd even probably even slant it maybe even more so, with the coaches. And, I know the recruiting handbook says that's not how you should do it, but no different than in your guys' business or any other business. At the end of the day, it comes down to people. You make decisions based on relationships and people. And Beaver Stadium is unbelievable. I think maybe one of the better venues in all of sports. Our academic rankings are awesome and really important. But at the end of the day, it's about the people in the stadium. It's about the people in the Lash football building. It's about the professors on campus that do a great job in helping us recruit when they have lunch with these student athletes and their families and things like that. It's about Sandy Barber taking time to talk to our recruits. It's about President Barron taking time to talk to our recruits. It's all that. It's when our guys are on the sideline in pregame and they see all the lettermen, all the former players back, having a great time, taking such pride in their university and their football program. It's all of that. So I appreciate Micah saying that. We got a lot of work to do, and he's going to be a big part of it. And I want to be here every step of the way, helping him and the rest of the players on our team achieve their dreams.
James, you obviously signed some very high-profile guys. Are there maybe a few guys who are under the radar a little bit that you think people haven't been talking about quite enough?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of these guys. I don't ever really like to single guys out. If you guys ask specific questions, then about a specific guy, then we do that. But there's a lot of guys. I mean, to be honest with you, we think all these guys that we signed are all 5-star or 4-star guys, in our mind, or we wouldn't sign them. We think all these guys have a chance to be all Big Ten type players, all American type players, academic All-Americans. We see that in all these guys. So for us, it's a little bit different because we have a more complete picture of what we're getting. We've seen their body types. We've measured them. We've seen them jump and run. We've looked at their transcripts, which their transcripts tell a lot. It's not just a GPA, it's how many absences you see on there, it's the type of courses they're taking. We've talked to high school coaches, we've talked to principals, guidance counselors, janitors, custodians, guidance counselors. We've talked to other coaches in the area. We've talked to parents of recruits that we've signed out of it. We try to have as much information as we possibly can so we can make great decisions, and guys become more valuable. It's not just their tape. It's how they interact with you. It's how respectful they are of their parents. It's what the guidance counselor says about them. It's what the teacher says about it. It's how they shake your hand. It's how they look you in the eye. It's all those things. So those other ingredients are why you see 2-star guys go on and play in the NFL, and sometimes why you see 5-star guys never make it. I would say Tom Brady, is a great example of that. Tom Brady, was drafted, I think, in the 6th round. But there's some things about Tom Brady that you could not, measure, on a clock or, jumping or body type or whatever it is. There was something in him, and that's what we're trying to really kind of figure out by asking all these questions and being around them and studying body language. And there's information there. There's red flags, and there are shining star things about all these kids. You got to be willing to see them. And I think a lot of times as coaches, you get intoxicated by talent and talent alone, and not look at these other things. And they're there. The signs are there. You have to be willing to see them, and you have to be willing to talk about them and address them. And that's good and bad. And none of us are perfect. And that's really what I think every scouting service in the NFL is trying to figure out, and what colleges are trying to figure out, because it's not just about the film. It's not just about the 40 time. That's a part of it, and that's a big part of it. but those other things are really going to determine how successful those guys are individually and how successful we are individually.
Hey James, you guys landed 2 prospects in Texas, 2 prospects in Florida. I know you've been getting outside the region a little more. How important is it to continue that success, and also what does it mean to get into 2 big high school states like that and start pulling in talent?
I think it's really important. It'll never be the lifeblood of our program. It'll be this region. But I think next year's a good example. I mean, we have not offered as many players as we normally have offered in this region, and that's not because we've changed our philosophy. We just, for whatever reason, the numbers are a little bit down. So I think the more that you're able to spread your net, especially in places like that, when you're able to go to Florida, Texas, even California, and Georgia, I'd put it in that category, and be able to get some guys that are high-level players, and other players see that, then there's a lot of value, because now it's always easy to go back to Texas, or easier to go back to Texas when you've gotten to the previous year, or go to Florida. And I think these kids and the high schools that they went to and the types of families that they come from, I think it creates some opportunities moving forward. And as you guys know, I like to study best practice, but I also like to study history. And you look at Penn State, for a long time, Penn State was doing a really good job of getting guys out of the South. Florida, South Carolina, Wally's from South Carolina, Wally Richardson, who still works with us. And for whatever reason, that went away, for a number of years. And I think, for us to continue growing and evolving the way we want to grow and evolve, we're going to have to spread our wings a little bit. But I think it's specific. There needs to be some ins. There needs to be some commonalities. There needs to be some things that make Penn State a legitimate option. I like our approach. I think adding the 10th coach will be able to kind of hit a little bit bigger region and a little bit other areas, but so will everybody else. It's not like we're getting the 10th coach and nobody else is, but I do think it's going to allow us to maybe get into some areas. For us, a lot like a lot of schools, a lot of it's based on, we look at State College. Where does State College have direct flights to? That factors a lot into how we recruit. We look at Harrisburg. Where does Harrisburg have direct flights to? Obviously we can go Baltimore, we can go Pittsburgh, and we go Philly as well, but those 2 airports where we have direct flights to is really going to have a major factor in how we recruit and where we recruit.
Just wanted to clarify one other thing. Internet rankings, they don't mean anything to you?
I think internet rankings matter. They are not the end-all, be-all. They are another piece of information. The transcript is a piece of information. Our film evaluation is a piece of information. Our measurements are a piece of information. Combines that we don't run is a piece of information. I'm not going to trust really anybody else's 40 but my own. But what it does tell me is a kid goes to X combine and they have him running a 4.5. I don't know if he's necessarily a 4.5, but what I can tell you is those 650 recruits at that combine, and he ran the fastest 40 there. That's valuable information, because I do think there's consistency in that. The rankings are important as another piece of information. Again, it's not the end-all, be-all. And then I do think there's a factor in terms of perception, excitement around your program, excitement with fans and things like that. Excitement with other recruits. So we respect and appreciate the recruiting rankings and the services, but it's not the end-all, be-all for us. We're not going to recruit a kid because he's ranked as a 5-star. We're not going to not recruit a kid because he's ranked a 2-star. What you hope is what you see, other people are seeing the same thing, because it reinforces it. You better be really confident if you're going in a direction of offering and recruiting a kid that nobody else is, because that's an exception. And whether that is other schools have offered them or whether that's other recruiting services have offered them. The reason I say that is I think for the most part, the sleeper doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Because of the internet, because of the amount of people that are covering the sport. You know, the kid in a small town in Pennsylvania or West Virginia or Delaware that, you know, no one's really seen or heard of, that's just not happening as much anymore. People are aware of that guy. You know, so the world has shrunk in a lot of different ways with the internet and, you know, flights and travel. It's just, you know, it's changed a lot of things.
Thanks, James.
James, it seems like the December signing period, at least from the outside, might make the numbers game harder in terms of 25 and 85. Is that the case? Was it more difficult to keep track of your numbers and knowing where to prioritize guys because it was so, you know, moved forward from December until from February, or not really?
Yeah, I think so, because you have less information. Obviously, the longer it goes, the more information you're going to have. You're going to have some guys after the bowl game announce whether they're going to the NFL or not. You're going to have some guys end up transferring because they want more playing time. And the longer that goes, the more information you're going to have, because it's really a guesstimate. You know, you're making a guesstimate based on attrition, and we study attrition. You know, we did it at our last school, and we do it here, not only since we've been here, but also the previous coaching staffs. What's been the average amount of attrition per year, and whether that's positive attrition or negative attrition, you know, what is it? So, yeah, I think the earlier you're having to make these decisions, the more challenging it is. But I do think it's not like we just moved the signing day up and there's not a second signing day, so you still have, you know, a chance to solve some of those issues that may show up later. There's going to be less options at that point, but there's still some opportunities.
James,
Time for two more.
You signed a 5-star running back, but you don't have a running backs coach. What's that conversation like with Ricky Slade in the last couple of weeks of the recruiting process?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that really goes back to Ricky, to Ricky's coach, to Ricky's mom and dad trusting us. And I'm able to say to Ricky, look, this is not the ideal situation. I had our 10th coach in-house, who was going to be our special teams coordinator. So it made sense to get us back to whole as quick as possible, put that guy on the road recruiting, and wait on the running back position. And you just have to trust me that you see the type of men that I surround myself with, the other coaches that him and his family have developed a relationship with. And I said, you just have to trust that I am going to hire someone that's not only going to be a great fit for Penn State, but it's also going to be a great fit for you. It makes no sense for me to bring you here and not have a coach that you're going to be able to identify with and work with. You like the last coach I had, you like the rest of the coach on our staff, you got to trust. And they were comfortable doing that. You know, I've also shared some information with Ricky and his family that I haven't shared with anybody else about some of my thoughts and some of the directions that we're going to go. They were comfortable with that. I haven't shared that with anybody else, but I wanted them to be as comfortable as they possibly could be. But they've been great. You know, they really have. And you know, we're going to make some decisions on this here pretty soon. We got the convention coming up on Sunday, so I'll be meeting with some guys on Sunday. I'm actually flying to go meet with some people on Friday as well, and I think we'll have this decision with the running back position made pretty quickly. But I think at the end of the day, it came back to what I was talking about. We had a really good relationship with Ricky and his family and his high school coaches, and we were very transparent and open and honest about what we were thinking and how we were handling it. At the end of the day, he felt comfortable saying, I want to go to Penn State because I love Penn State. I love the guys on the team. I really like the coaching staff, and I think coach is going to go hire someone really good that's going to help me develop and help us win a bunch of games.
James, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
You're always so pleasant.
I try. I figure that's what I got going for me.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
I may have you reposition you to sit in the room next to some other people in the future.
Positive.
Yeah, want to rub off? Yeah.
We'll see how that works.
To be honest, they've got a pretty good room today. They've got a pretty good room. There's
over there. An empty seat.
Yeah, there's these front seats. These front seats.
They scared me too, so that's why I sit back here.
Now I'm going to get some nasty emails and text messages from a bunch of sensitive people later. I'm just kidding. Front row. Missing front row people, just kidding.
With the roster that you signed today, you mentioned Micah Parsons playing middle linebacker. Is there the same positional flexibility that you always like in the rest of, especially defensively? And how long does that go on where you kind of are getting an idea of where somebody's going to play versus then we place him in that position?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. But I've said this to you guys before. The guys that we're recruiting really should have the flexibility that we're talking about. I mean, you look all the way back to Michael Menet. You watch Michael Menet's high school tape, his defensive line high school tape was impressive. You know, I think he could play here on the defensive line. I think he has a higher ceiling on the offensive line. Coach Pry came up to me the other day in practice watching C.J. Thorpe and said, hey, we'll take that guy at nose. Well, just so you know, every player on our team, Coach Pry thinks should be playing defense and should be playing linebacker. But the guys that we're recruiting are that level athletes. They should be able to dominate on both sides of the ball in high school. And there should be some flexibility once they get here. Corners that we think could be safeties, corners that could be wide receivers that could be corners. You know, what you're really trying to do is say, yeah, this guy could be successful on either side of the ball, but this is where we think he could bring the most value at Penn State and can bring the most value for himself long term. So, you know, Micah, I think what helps him is you watch him play running back. I always think the best linebackers played high school running back as well. You know, there's really a lot of similarities in terms of our running back hitting the hole and the instincts of knowing what hole to hit, and a linebacker knowing how to fit. It's very similar. You know, Mike is a guy who's going to be 245 pounds and run 4.5, and there's no doubt in my mind he can play defensive end. We have a challenge that we need to solve some linebacker depth issues that we have. We think with him graduating early, he's got a chance to kind of learn it, and then have a chance to truly compete for the job come the fall. So it's a combination of both. It's a talent, but it's also a need. And don't get me wrong, we got great guys in our program that we think are going to be competing for that job as well, but we don't have, maybe the returning starters. So we want to make sure that we have enough competition that, whoever wins the job, we know is going to be able to play at a very, very high level. There's a number of guys that I think are going to fall into that category. We're excited, about Jan. We're excited about Ellis. We're excited about a bunch of guys. But the middle linebacker position is going to be an important decision for us. So we want to make sure we have enough competition there. So, but yeah, that's across the board. I could make an argument. A bunch of these guys, I think Judge Culpepper, could play, tight end probably. I think Jahan Dotson could play defensive back. I think Daniel George, you watch his high school tape, I think some of his most impressive plays are at safety, and his range going to get the ball. I said that to his high school coach. His high school coach told me, I think if you don't want to play defensive back, you need to take some of these plays off your highlight tape because they're going to start thinking about you that way. I could go down the entire list. Juice Scruggs, our coaches were at the state championship game, and they said the guy was the best guy on the field on both sides of the ball. I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with the progress that we're making like that. I think that also helps you on special teams because those guys have a lot of qualities and a lot of skills that are going to help us on special teams.
Thank you, Coach.
Guys, thank you. Really appreciate it. Have a great, I guess I should say happy holidays. Have a great, I can't be specific. Have a great holiday season.
We're the cool group.
Yeah, have a great holiday season. Enjoy it. And hopefully I'll get a chance to see most of you guys at the bowl site as well. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.